Start to record.
All right. So some of this involves just shaking the dust off, right? Dredging it up out of the back of your brain. There's a couple different ways to do this one. The most straightforward way really is just to do what the operation is. What's fraction mean operationally? What operation is a fraction? What's the bar? It's the what bar? Division bar. To me, it's not funny. Funny's not the right word. Sad is closer. And more and more people would take 3 over 5 and write that like this. If you are one of those people, I am picking on you a little bit. Oh, it's stupid. But this, what is this? This is 5 divided by 3. This is not 3 divided by 5. In fact, 3/5, is it bigger or smaller than 1? Of course it's smaller than 1. 5/5 is a whole pizza. Somebody came and ate 2/5 of my frickin' pizza. I got 3/5 left. That ain't no whole pizza. And they delivered it like that. What the shit? I'm sorry. Doesn't have to be that. They might eat some of my pepperoni, but I don't know. So I could do 5 into 3, and of course, you could argue your brain does this because your brain goes, no, 5 don't go in no 3. We're like, brain, shut up. We're past that. We know how to do this. So of course you get 0.6, right? Now another way to do this is if you multiply top and bottom by 20, you make it become something out of 100, 60 out of 100. And what is out of 100? What do we use in place of saying out of 100? We use the symbol percent. Percent means out of 100. So either way you do it, you end up coming back to once, twice, 0.6 is a decimal. How we know? So you don't always have to go from fraction to decimal or something. You can do it in multiple different ways, as long as at least one of them makes sense. Okay. So what about this guy? I just kind of did it here, but if these are in alphabetical order, see the decimal is before the percent, do you see that? Then you move the decimal point the way you're going, right? So it's always going to be how many times? 2, because it's out of 100, 2 zeros. So I'm going to move this back once, twice, 0.427. So what I like to say is the decimal number is always smaller than the percent number. Now I know some of you guys are like, what the hell, man? I know this shit. What? But some of us are like, oh God, I don't remember this. So there's a ton of different backgrounds in here. Some of you guys are fresh off of algebra, you know all that. Some of you guys, it's been 10 years, whatever, since you last took a math course, you're like, what have I done to myself? So this is just kind of to remind you, this is where you need to be very soon to be able to handle the new stuff we're going to do in this class. Now to go to a fraction here, what place is this in? Tenths, hundredths, thousandths. Yeah, don't write any better, sorry. This is my writing. That's another reason you can kick yourself. What have I done to myself? This guy can't write. Oh well, too bad. So this one will work the same way, right? This is still in the thousands place. And to be honest, on this kind of problem, I'd rather even not seeing it being reduced. Right? Because normally if I give this kind of problem, it means somebody just had the calculator do it for them in the beginning. And to make it into a percent, I just move it this way now. Once, twice, 6.4%. Kick ass. How's everybody doing? You alright? I love some of your expressions. Some of you guys are like, you're not saying anything. I'm not sure what to do for you. So yeah, that's my face, Jeff. I got resting what the hell face. All right. So this guy the same way. Our brain might say the poor little dude's already so tiny, but too damn bad. It's going to become even tinier, right? It's going to move over once, and then I got to pick up a known 0 out there. So now I'm going to have, let's see, 1, 2, 3 zeros. And now what place is that in? 10 thousandths. Always sounds like we have a lisp. There's 2 ways to do this one for the fraction. This has got a whole part and a fractional part. So it's 1 and 12 hundredths, right? That is one way to do that. If I make it into a percent first, what does that become? Why does it make sense it's more than 100%? Because this is bigger than 1. So it's more than one whole thing. So it's going to be bigger than 100%. 112% would make no sense if it was a probability question. What I like to say is, if there's a 112% chance it's going to rain, what does that mean? It's going to be giant rain, right? The drops will be huge. Or it's going to rain in the next universe, too. And it's like, so 100% is obviously the maximum for probability. But why does 112% still make sense in other situations? Can somebody come up with a situation where that makes sense? A physical situation? Yes, your profit can go up 112%. 100% increase in profit means it doubled. Because you were somewhere and you increased by that same amount. You increased by 100% of where you were, so now you're double. 112% means you're a little more than double. Right? Good job, everybody. Our little lemonade stand, 112% profit. This one we can't do this way. Oh, real quick, the other way to do this one, what's percent mean again? Per 100. So this is also 112 over 100. Are these the same thing? Of course they are. How do you make this back into an improper fraction? 100 times 1 plus 12. Bam. And then what do you have to do with this one? I can't make the bottom become 100 easy. So what do I have to do? Well, we have to do what we did up here. We got to do 16 into 3. Right? And that takes a little while too to hand that. If I don't say round, you keep going. This does stop at the 4th place. But let me see if you guys are with me on that. I want to give you another way to do this. That way, everybody should know how to long divide. Right? Let me give you this one. What's 3/4 as a percentage? 3/4 is, of course, 75%. 3/8 would be half of that. What's half of 75%? 37.5. 3/16 would be half of that. What's half of 37.5? 18.75. Is that what you guys? 0.1875. Yeah. Okay. So 0.1875 once twice, 18.75%. Gas. Okay. We're not going to really see any problem like this. You guys with me? This is like a math 88, 90 problem. But you got to know how to transition between all these different forms. What about this one? This one always gets me. Well, of course I get somebody to do this, which you're creating people. 20 out of 3 people have problems with this. All right, so you have 3, but 20 of them. Okay, so that's not. No. What's the right way to say this? There's 3 left-handed out of 20. And again, the quick way to do this is just multiply by top and bottom by 5. Bam. I like it. That's right. Some of you guys look angry at me. I'm sorry. All right. So what about this one? What's the worst thing besides it exists? What's the worst thing about that problem? Where's X? On the top. So the fact that this has a bottom, that sucks. So I kill it. The nice thing about solving equations, I'm allowed to kill the things I don't like for the most part. Right? I don't like that stupid S. Let's kill it. How do I kill it?
The S on top of the Z. I said put the S on top of the Z.
Can't put the S on top of the Z, because that would be dividing by Z somehow. What I want to do is multiply by S. So put the S next to the Z, because I'm going to take both sides and I'm going to multiply by S. So then the S's die. So then I get SZ equals X minus M. So the last step to get X by itself? Add M. So X equals M plus SZ, or some reorganization of that. Kill the S, bam. So now I got X minus M equals SZ. So the S basically just comes up. How are we doing on that first step? And then I just got to add the M over to get the X by itself. Some of you guys look troubled. You might want to come see me. Yes?
doesn't really matter how you put it, like, in order, right?
No, you're right. I could do this as ZS plus M, SZ plus M, because what is it, commutivity? Oh shit. Right, remember commutative property of addition, multiplication, I can multiply any order I want to. Yeah, I like it. So there are other ways to do this. By the way, this is a formula we're going to use this semester. We don't know what it means yet. The M is not going to be what we use there. We're going to use a Greek letter there. It's going to stand for the mean. That's why I put an M for now. This is another formula we're going to use. Oh shit, what's wrong with N? Why does it suck to solve for M? What's stupid square root, and also it's on the frickin' bottom. So let's take care of one thing at a time. How to get it out of the bottom? Holy shit. There you go. How do I get it out of the bottom? Multiply by it. Dead. So now I've raised it. Raised it from the bottom. I like it. And then I don't want the z here, do I? Yep, so I'm going to divide by e. So I'm going to get square root of n. So look what happened. This is a neat thing about algebra. What's 10 divided by 5? 2. I love you guys. What's 10 divided by 2? 5. See how the 2 and the 5 can just change places? And of course, it stays true. So do you see how the e and the root n just change places? Right? Same way that 10 divided by 5 is 2, or 10 divided by 2 is 5. They can just switch places and it still is true. Maybe, maybe? Whatever you say, Jeff. All right. And then last thing I got to do is square. Die. So this is a formula we'll see in chapter 8. Hopefully everybody did this one okay. I want to show you a cool little thing on this one. How do I find the average of any numbers? Add them all up. You get 39 divided by 5. I like it. Quick way to divide by 5 is this, right? No, screw that. If I double the top and bottom, it becomes 78 over 10, 7.8, right? Divided by 10 is easy. So divided by 5 is almost divided by 10. So I double it and move the decimal back. Or you put it in the damn calculator. Right? So either way you do it, you get 7.8. Cool. Maybe. Like some of you guys are like, you lost me at hello. This one, let me do it the traditional way first. This is where algebra comes in and says, I got this. There's something I don't know that I really should know. But I do know the end result. That's when algebra goes, I got this. That's not that weird ass dude Joe that knows how much interest he made, but he forgot how much money he put in. So that's when algebra comes in and says, I can help you with that backward shift. Right? What's the thing I don't know? Third test grade. We're going to call it, that's great. How do you find the average of the 3 tests then? Add them all up and divide by, in this case, 3. And I know the answer to that average has got to be 80. Bless you. And then I just do the algebra. What do I want to kill first? You've seen this idea twice now. I want to get rid of the 3, don't I? So I just triple both sides. 81 and 72 is 153. Stop there for a second.
Wait, you multiplied the 3?
Yes, totally. Got to multiply the 3 so it cancels. So I got to multiply the other side by 3 also. I like it. One big trouble that people have with algebra is you're so mean to yourself. You don't write things in the right place. You don't keep track of things. It's hard enough already without you making it harder for yourself. So you have to be really clear about what is it I just did? What is it that dies? Somebody will do this and they'll multiply all this by 3. And I'm like, how did that 3 survive? It's dead. We killed it. I watch too many zombie movies. Or Game of Thrones. This is my algebra is very Games of Thrones-ish. There's a lot of death and dying. Horrible things. And then the last step here is subtract. Yeah. Just undo the addition. 240 minus 153 is 87. Now, let me show you an awesome awesome shortcut for this. Huh?
I didn't know.
What'd you do? Did you get 87? What'd you do there? Let's see.
Well, I just figure out like. Okay.
Oh, I see. So you set it up and then figured it out in your head? Okay. So you basically did the same thing, just less writing. That's gonna not fly too well with me. I'm big on work. I have a shirt that says "Show your work," so do that. Watch this. This kicks ass. 81, 72, and unknown. And I want the result to be 80, the average. Right? How far off from 80 is 81? It's up 1. How far off from 80 is 72? Down 8. So overall, I'm how far away from 80 so far? 7 down. So this better be 7 up from 80 to make up for that shit. Ooh. That's not David Blaine shit. But it's, what's the average of 5, 5, 5? 5. Good job. So what's the average of 4, 5, 6? Still 5. All I did was to take 1 away from the first 5 and put it on the last 5. They still all add up to be the same thing. So of course the average is going to be the same. So you're just seeing how far off is everything, and the last dude makes up for that shit. Right? This is a good example of why algebra is useful, but it's not always the best tool. And you've never heard a math person say that probably, but algebra is a really monster useful tool, but it isn't always the best one. And I'm sure you guys are like, yeah, I got the right answer all the time on my word problems. Still took all the points off, and I'm like, it's like driving class. If I say drive to the mall and you walk to the mall, you ain't passing the driving class. You know, I made it to the mall. All right, sorry. So you're gonna use algebra and algebra. All right. Any questions from that whole thing? There it is. So that wasn't meant to teach you. That was meant to dredge up some memories of things. All right, so we are going to do a little bit of statistics today. Oh shit. So we are in a little bit of time left. So I want to warn you about something. Chapter 1 is definitions. And that's it. So there's not a lot you can sink your teeth into. It's just words. You got to get used to what they mean. But you're going to help me out a little bit with setting up a situation so we can learn what the words are in a situation. Is anybody interested at all about anything about your fellow Grossmont students, like the percentage of Grossmont students that are going to vote or something? That actually would be a good one, but...
The percentage of students who pass from
Oh, okay, I can deal with that. This is a nice... Sorry. So the percentage of students who end up choosing pass, no pass option, right? Okay. Okay. So we have a group of things, or people, in this case people, that we have something we want to figure out to describe them with, right? Anybody know how many Grossmont students there are?
40,000.
Well, it's not quite 40,000. Now it's going to be less impressive when I say it's like just below 20,000. 19,000 something. Oh yeah, you know. So you know the numbers. You work in the admissions, or?
Still working cashier, but I did.
Oh, yeah, so
I
you-
used to work at.
I got you. So it's normally around 19, 20,000. I think it's a little down at the moment than normal, so it's probably right around 19.
But like the average is like
Yeah.
19, like 19,000.
19,500 something. Okay. Which explains why later in the day it's hard to find a parking spot. But
Give it to me.
do you want to talk to 19,000 students? Some of you guys are like, I didn't want to talk to the 2 I talked to earlier. So, what do we call that group though? All Grossmont students. What statistical word would we use for that? And actually, what just everyday word? That is the what of Grossmont? Population. So the population is to describe? Normally numerical. And of course, instead of talking to the entire population of Grossmont College, we talk to a what? Sample. So in this case, let me just do the definition. Sample would be a, what is a sample then? It's a, I like it. So like a subgroup. Let's get all official here. Subgroup of the population that we actually work with. Because ain't nobody got time for that, to talk to all the, that's a little callback. Once we get our sample, so let me ask you this. Are you guys a sample of Grossmont students? Yes. Would you be a good sample to determine an answer to this? I can see some of you guys taking it personal, like, I'm a good person. You guys are a bad sample for this. It's nothing to do with if you're good or bad. I have no idea for most of you guys. Only a few guys I know. I know you're bad, so it's okay. Most of you guys I know. Why are you guys a bad sample? Can you think about why? What do you want the sample to do? Since you can only talk to a sample of Grossmont students, but you want to be able to say something about everybody. So what must your sample do well? Relate, I like it. Relate to the whole population. That's basically, it's got to represent the population, right? So I like the relate. So if I picked a sample and I only picked male friends of mine that go to Grossmont, that's obviously not good. It's not going to be good because maybe there's something that affects this depending on what gender you are, right? So why are you guys a bad sample? Sorry? Yeah, but let's fold that out. So this is just one class. Well, what's wrong with that?
It doesn't offer possible.
No, you can. No, totally, guys. You guys know you can take any class you want to and make it pass or pass. Up to a certain limit within your major. You guys know that? So there are classes that you don't have an option. You just is pass or pass, right? But then there are classes, any other class you can choose. That's why on the homework sheet I have a deadline for the last day to apply for pass or pass. That's why that's there. I wouldn't recommend it, really, unless it's like a 5-unit course. You're pretty sure you're going to make a C in it, and it's going to affect your grade. Then you do it. Then that kind of makes sense, because then you pass it, you get the C. You pass it, it doesn't affect your GPA. You guys kind of with me? That's enough of that. You should all. Well, okay. So maybe you guys will learn something. Where was I? Shit. Okay. You guys are a bad sample because you don't represent the population, because you are taking statistics. Does every student have to take statistics? No. You are taking it at this time. Can every student be here at this time? No. This is what's called, I love this. You have online courses and then you have on-ground courses. So we're not floating in the flippin' air. I love that, on-ground. You're not an online class. Don't some students only take online classes? Sure. You guys with me? So then how could you possibly represent everybody if not everybody had a chance to be here? Does that make sense? So there could be some bias in the reasons you're here could bias the results of the question. Maybe. You guys with me? So this idea, we're going to get into this deeper later, but the idea of random samples being the goal. And a random sample means every element of the population has a chance to be included. That is truly what a random sample is. The word random is really misunderstood nowadays. Watch some weird ass YouTube shit. I ain't what random. That's just dumb. Alright. So random is the goal. I'm going to talk more about that later. Once I get, now let's just say I'm going to take you guys. Let's just pretend like you're not my class. You're all people I picked. You're my sample. What am I going to do now that I've got you here? What's the next step in this process of trying to get an answer to this? I'm going to obviously ask a question. It's crazy, right? So the question is related to this idea of variable. It's gonna make sense. If I ask somebody a question, is there more than one answer they can give me? Normally, yes. That's why I'm asking. Right? If I said, "Are you alive?" Well, it's not a real good question because you can see. But so variable is related to the question you ask. So in this case, what question am I going to ask each person?
Are you taking no pass no?
Are you going to do pass no pass for this class, right? That's what I'm going to ask each person, right? And every person could have either a yes or a no. So the answers to the question is what we call, of course, data. That's how we collect data. So the answers to the question, that's data. The variable is the question you ask. There's a group of people I want to say something about, and then there's a group of people I can actually work with. Okay, like it. Gas. Sorry.
I said liking it.
Okay, I like it. So far, nothing major. I haven't dropped anything freaky as all hell. Let me see. How much time we got? I'll tell you what. Was there one more thing? Let me think. Was there something else I did there? Oh, yeah, that's right. I did 2 more things, and then we're out. Let's say I ask everybody the question, and instead of actually sitting here, I'm going to pretend like 11 people said yes, and I think there's about 50, so we'll say 40 people say no. You with me? So that's my data. What do I then do with that data to answer the question? I like it. Don't go there yet.
Make an equation.
No equation necessary. What is it that I want?
You want to
Percent. So what would be what out of what? 11 out of 51. Not a trick question really, but be careful. The total is 51. So there's 2 things here. There is a statistic, and leave room right here for something else. So I'm going to make this number 6. Here's number 5, the mystery dude. Statistic is the number I get from my sample. It's the analyzation of my sample data that I get. So that, what is 11 divided by 51? Somebody help me out. That's like 20.72. I don't know, I'm making shit up. Can anybody? Nobody has a? 11 divided by 51. I think it's 2.
21.57.
Okay, 2157. So 21.57%. What does that describe? That number describes what? Where'd it come from? Of the sample. Statistic describes the sample. You gotta love that shit. Statistic describes the sample. What describes the population is the parameter. Holy crap. Parameter describes the population. Isn't that neat? Then why don't you do that more often, math? Come on, math. So if I said 87% of everybody who has flown in an airline dislikes the food choices, is that a parameter or a statistic? I love you guys. There's one key word in there that I said. 87% of all people that have flown on airlines dislike the food options. It's a parameter. What's the key word? All. It's not of a sample. It's of every freaking person. Do you see what I'm saying? I hate when somebody says it's a statistic because it's a percentage. That don't mean shit. These are both possibly percentages. They could both be averages. One is talking about the entire group. The other one is talking about a subgroup. That's it. So if I said 87% of the students I talk to like parking at Grossman College, that would be a false statistic. That would be statistic. Yes. Yes.
So in this case, what would be the parameter?
In this case, we don't know the parameter, do we?
Yeah.
We've only talked to a subgroup, but what do we do? Has anybody paying attention to the fact that there's an election, like, feels like it should be tomorrow with all the freaking shit going on, but of course it's not. Anybody paying at all? Do you guys know there's an election coming up? Anybody know who the president is? I don't know. No, all right. Anybody paying any attention to polls at all? Anybody looking at anything? I'm not asking you for your political affiliation, who you're going to vote for. I'm not doing that. In the surveys I will, which I forgot to mention. But whenever you see a poll, let's say Biden 42%, Sanders 47%, at the bottom of the screen you're going to see plus or minus 4%. Has anybody ever seen that? I'll show you something next time up there. We're going to learn later where that number comes from. That's the best we can do to get a parameter, is to kind of expand on it to get a feel for what the parameter might be. Because we almost always only talk to a sample. And we try to infer something about the entire population. So we almost never can get a parameter, because we almost never can get the entire population. Maybe. Okay, and the last thing, real quick, I said something on the website. I got the links active this morning. There's there's a survey. There's 2 links on my website. I want you to do both surveys. I'm going to send out an email to remind you guys. Let me cycle through this real quick. So if you go to the website, there, 162 there's Thursday, see that?
Yeah.
Basic information survey and anonymous survey. So this one asks for your name and then some basic shit. And this one's anonymous because they ask you some stuff like what's your political affiliation and so forth, right? So I don't want to know those kind of specifics about you. Please fill those in, because I make quiz and test problems from those, and I always think it's more interesting when you're like, oh, I'm part of this data, right? Or just do it for me. Just